but in catering and for carpenters, for dry cleaners, all kinds of other small businesses here in the Valley. So I would want to have legislation that would expand and extend our film tax credit.
Tricia?
I would actually create a bill to increase the amount of vocational education training that we had so that we are able to give our residents the skills that they need in order to fulfill jobs that have been open for quite some time but for which they haven't been able to find folks who have the requisite skills.
I've got a series of bills on education that we're going to get into in dealing with curriculum and instruction and opening up to 2018, but one to bring and introduce is banning the death penalty. That's what I do first.
Okay, next lightning round, and then we're going to take a couple of questions from the audiences. Again, 15 seconds. Start with Tricia. What committees would you like to serve on if elected?
Housing, economic development, education, and transportation. Those are the committees I'd be most interested in.
Yeah, there's I think 3 different education committees and subcommittees, so looking at the details of which ones you serve on, higher education, K through 12, healthcare and how we get to universal single-payer healthcare and make sure that it helps businesses and small businesses support their workers is another committee that is so important, and energy and environment, right? How do we get to 100% renewable energy on that clean air, clean water, and clean energy angle? So the environment, those 3 are my priorities and the committees that I'd be on. Amy.
So I'd want to be on the Appropriations Committee because that's the most powerful one and you have the most opportunity to do good things for this community. And also on the Higher Education Committee, I think that in improving our state's higher education system and making it more affordable and more accessible is an important thing for the Valley, an important thing for our economy, and so I'd want to do work there.
Great. All right, let's take a couple of 1-minute audience questions. Francesca?
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Francesca Vega, Director of Government Community Relations at Cal State Northridge. I appreciate that you all highlighted higher education, access to higher education in your opening remarks. What kind of long-term plan would you bring to the table, especially given Cal State Northridge, one of the largest universities in the state, is in the 45th Assembly District? How would you be our champion?
All right, let's go Anchor, Tricia, and then Jesse.
A champion needs to work with all of the constituencies involved. So everyone from the California Faculty Association to the student organizations need to have input into what we're going to do at the CSU level, the UC level. We had the Los Angeles Education Research Institute show that at LAUC specifically, only 25% of graduates end up in 6 or 8 years graduating. So I think it's a connective problem. It's an issue that we have to look at it holistically from elementary and year 3 all the way to higher education. How are we scaffolding? How are we building from elementary and preparing kids all the way to college? And we're not doing that yet. And so that means invest in resources, of course, but then prioritizing the people who do the work at the CSUs and the faculty particularly.
As someone who is a high school dropout, I also recognize the transformative power of education. I would make sure, first off, that we have more, it all comes down to resources, I think, in some respects. So more resources to high schools so that we have more counselors and more nurses. More resources to the community college district because as somebody who put herself through school, I'm still paying my student loans and will be paying my student loans for quite some time. And I think that it hobbles us as an economy and it hobbles us as a state to have our students graduating with such an incredible amount of debt. So we need to ensure that education is less expensive for them or that there are ways that they can get through school without incurring so much debt. Finally, higher education was free in the state at one point in time. It would be great to find our way back to that.
So I think it's an excellent question. I think to answer the first part of it, I think CSUN and Pierce are absolute jewels of this community. We're lucky to have them in this district. I would want to do everything I could to support them. And I think the first thing I'd want to do is come and have a conversation and have regular conversations about what I could do in Sacramento to support the university, to help you, and to help this community. I think more broadly on higher education, We are lucky in this state. We have a system that was at one point the envy of the world. I think it still can be, but we have to make some important choices. And I think a lot of that is about creating a dedicated funding stream for higher education. We have these years where we go up and down, and it's very hard for our system to plan, for the UC and CSU to plan when they don't know what kind of state support they're going to have in the coming years. So I think that having a dedicated revenue stream is really important. And my family was brought into the middle class through free public higher education in the state. I bet if we went around the room, we'd find a ton of people that are products of community college, CSU, UC, and are now giving back to the community. So we get enormous return on investment as a state from our investment in public higher education, and I think we need to do everything we can to get back to the master plan and where we used to be.
Okay. Next question from the audience?
It's right here.
Janet Gagnon with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the current movement of the Costa-Hawkins repeal and rent control in general.
All right, let's do Tricia, then Jesse, then